In 1942, as the Second World War entered its most brutal phase, Nazi Germany appeared to stand at the height of its power. Much of Europe lay beneath the iron heel of the Wehrmacht, armies once believed to be unstoppable. From the Atlantic coast to the outskirts of Moscow, German forces had conquered vast territories with astonishing speed. Yet in the east, across the frozen plains of the Soviet Union, Adolf Hitler prepared a gamble that would decide the fate of the war itself, the seizure of Stalingrad. This city was not merely an industrial hub on the banks of the Volga River. It carried immense symbolic weight, bearing the name of Joseph Stalin himself. For Hitler, capturing Stalingrad promised more than a military victory. It was intended as a psychological blow, a public humiliation of the Soviet state. From that moment forward, Stalingrad descended into a nightmare without precedent in human history. In the summer of 1942, Germany launched Case Blue, a massive offensive aimed at southern Russia. The objective was clear: seize the oil fields of the Caucasus and sever the Soviet Union's vital transport routes along the Volga. At the center of this plan stood the German Sixth Army, commanded by General Friedrich Paulus, tasked with taking Stalingrad. At first, events unfolded as Germany had come to expect. Panzer divisions advanced relentlessly. Luftwaffe bombers dominated the skies, and Soviet defenses collapsed city after city. When German aircraft unleashed thousands of tons of bombs upon Stalingrad, the city was transformed into an inferno. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble, factories shattered, and tens of thousands of civilians were killed within days. German commanders believed no city could survive such destruction. By late 1942, German forces controlled much of Stalingrad, yet victory remained elusive. The Sixth Army had been drawn into a devastating war of attrition. Germany's most experienced divisions were being slowly ground down, day by day, in the ruins of the city. Hitler, obsessed with the symbolic value of Stalingrad, refused to allow withdrawal. Assaults continued, exacting enormous casualties for minimal gains. While German troops bled in the streets, Soviet commanders prepared their decisive counterstroke in silence. In November 1942, as the Russian winter set in with merciless force, the Red Army launched Operation Uranus. Rather than attack Stalingrad directly, Soviet forces struck the weaker Axis troops guarding the German flanks, primarily Romanian and Hungarian units stretched thin across open terrain. The defenses collapsed with shocking speed. Within days, Soviet armored columns met near the town of Kalach, encircling more than 300,000 Axis soldiers inside Stalingrad. The German Sixth Army was completely surrounded. Paulus appealed urgently to Berlin. The response from Hitler was uncompromising. He ordered the army to hold its ground, promising that the Luftwaffe would supply the encircled forces by air. It was a promise that could not be fulfilled. German transport aircraft were insufficient in number, crippled by weather, Soviet anti-aircraft fire, and logistical chaos. Supplies fell far short of what was needed. Inside the pocket, conditions deteriorated rapidly. Soldiers froze in temperatures plunging far below zero. Starvation became widespread. Wounded men died untreated. Weapons jammed with ice. Corpses lay unburied in trenches and cellars, silent witnesses to the collapse of an army. Yet, within those ruins, Stalingrad became a battlefield unlike any the Germans had ever faced. The Soviet Red Army did not retreat. Instead, it clung to the wreckage, street by street, building by building, basement by basement. The battle rapidly evolved into the most savage form of urban warfare ever recorded. German soldiers gave it a name, Rattenkrieg, the War of Rats. Combat was fought at point-blank range, often inside the same buildings. A single structure might change hands several times in one day. In some places, opposing soldiers were separated by nothing more than a thin brick wall, hurling grenades through holes torn by artillery fire. Front lines were measured not in kilometers, but in meters, and sometimes in footsteps. Industrial complexes such as the Stalingrad tractor factory, the Red October steel plant, and the Barricadi factory were transformed into living fortresses. Workers assembled weapons while battles raged around them, then picked up rifles to defend their machines. T-34 tanks rolled straight from the production lines into combat, sometimes still unpainted. Soviet snipers stalked the ruins, turning shattered streets into killing grounds. Among them, Vasily Zaitsev became a symbol of resistance, spreading fear through the German ranks. As autumn faded into winter, the cold tightened its grip. Ammunition dwindled, food became scarce, but orders from Moscow were absolute, not one step back.
As the weeks passed, the Red Army tightened its grip. Artillery pounded German positions relentlessly. Each block recaptured came at a terrible cost, but the strategic balance had decisively shifted. In January 1943, Hitler promoted Paulus to the rank of Field Marshal, a clear signal. No German field marshal had ever surrendered, but reality had overwhelmed ideology. The Sixth Army had no ammunition, no food, and no hope of relief. On February 2, 1943, after more than 5 months of continuous combat, the Battle of Stalingrad came to an end. Paulus surrendered. Approximately 90,000 exhausted German soldiers were taken prisoner. Only a fraction would ever return home. Total casualties on both sides are estimated to exceed 2 million, making Stalingrad the deadliest battle in human history. Yet Stalingrad was more than a catastrophe. It was the decisive turning point of the Second World War. For the first time, an entire German army had been annihilated. The myth of Wehrmacht invincibility was shattered. Strategic initiative on the Eastern Front passed irrevocably to the Soviet Union. From this moment forward, German forces would retreat step by step toward their final defeat in 1945. Stalingrad stands as a symbol of humanity pushed to its absolute limits. It reveals the staggering cost of modern warfare and the destructive power of ideology when fused with total war. It was not merely a clash of armies, but a moment when the course of history itself was violently redirected. In the ruins along the Volga, the world witnessed both the depths of human destruction and the beginning of the end for one of the most brutal regimes the world has ever known.